Hello again. I should apologize for how long I've needlessly delayed this video, as it's been mostly done for a while, but this is a continuation of the beginner's milestone level video that I released a while back. It basically gives you the milestone starter pack to work your way up to demons if you're much newer to the game. If you're watching this by choice, you are at a point where you're ready to start beating demons. But there are hundreds. Which ones will truly help you work on your skills? Which ones should you be working towards as goals? And how do you know what makes a demon worth taking seriously? Let's find out. I'm glad I procrastinated on this video for a few weeks after it was almost finished, because this one just came out. Starpunk is the perfect beginner demon. It's really intuitive, readable, and balanced, and it looks absolutely stunning. It's the perfect length and difficulty for people to simply get used to playing the game. This could easily be your first demon if you didn't follow all the previous videos' itinerary. Speed Racer uses a whole lot of speed portals and requires a balanced level of proficiency in skill and memory alike. This is where you're going to want to start practicing if you haven't done that already. Use this level to determine if you're a practice mode person or a copyable start position person. Use how long it takes you to beat this as a metric of how fast you are at gaining consistency. If it doesn't go so well, try out some other low-end easy demons. High Rebound by Optiwolf, Getting Far by Lex97, Fun by JF, and Magnetic Boost by Matthew NW are all great starter demons to get some more practice with. Clubstep is one of those levels that look really scary. This is also equal parts memory and skill in terms of what it demands from players, to a more intense degree than Speed Racer. But if you have effectively built up consistency tactics, this should be a doable task. This is also a good time to go for Theory of Everything 2 and Deadlocked, although I can't really say they have as much value in beating. X is a really fluid, fun demon that is pretty demanding of skill with every gameplay mechanic that was available for its time in 2.0. You can actually go for this before Clubstep if you would like to, but it requires you to be more well-rounded, whereas Clubstep's main difficulty comes almost solely from the flying sections. The tricky endings should prepare you for managing your nerves with levels that have very late death magnet spots, like triple spikes or straight flying. You'll see both of those at the very ends of levels elsewhere on this list, so it's good to get prepared for them now. The description of X also fits Motion, but to a greater degree. Being hailed by many as the most fun level ever made, Motion is a satisfying, high-octane ride that requires noteworthy control in each and every game mode, some optional memory that can be sight-read by highly experienced players, and resilience to focus on exceedingly dynamic movements for a long period of time. It's nothing short of a masterpiece, and I recommend it for anyone who gets into this game. Another one of the most fun levels out there, Decode is a really satisfying course of funky UFO parts with some tight flying and jumping in between. The Wave at the end had this level listed as one of the hardest demons of all time back in early 1.9, but by the time everyone came to realize how much easier it is than it looks, that perspective was completely flipped. Decode is still considered one of the hardest easy demons, and beating it is indicative of enough skill to beat some medium demons. To me, Voyager is harder than Decode, as its flying parts are tighter and more demanding, and the difficulty is a lot more consistent by comparison. But that does not make it any less of a satisfying and exhilarating masterpiece. Simple in its designs and in its structure, Voyager is a straightforward, honest, fair, and incredibly fun level, and it is a perfect segue into medium demons. You're ready for medium demons now, but it's quite difficult to determine where to start. Much like the four corners from earlier when we got into harders, these three medium demons should collectively prepare you for the majority of demons you'll find at this difficulty, but I've still selected them sort of on my own as pseudo-milestones. We'll call them the Three Musketeers. All of the Musketeers have a focus on pattern and muscle memory and fitting through tight spaces, since you'll be needing those things as you move forward. System Split and Toxic Sewers both blew up in 1.9 and are surprisingly similar in principle despite having completely different atmospheres. Both of them have a lot of orb memory and concentrated flying parts. There are some tricky UFO timings here and there in both of them that should remind you of your experience with Decode. If you get tired of one, work on the other for a bit. Now, Lonely Travel is an oddball here, for a few reasons. Partially because its tight and focused demanding spaces present themselves in ways completely unique from the other two Musketeers, and partially because it's 6 minutes long. Lonely Travel is so long. You did handle In Silico, but this is still longer and significantly harder. This should be a good way to learn how to keep your focus for a long period of time, as well as how to break down a level into sections, so that you can gradually master each part and find the optimal survival strategies. You can branch directly off of the Three Musketeers if you find you enjoy these, or if you need more practice. If you want to go down the road of System Split, I suggest Chaos Airflow by Samsar. If you want to go down the road of Toxic Sewers, I recommend Crunchy Apple by Darnock. If you fall in love with playing levels like Lonely Travel, for whatever reason, you can follow it up with Insanity by Serpunch, after which you will likely want a divorce. The Demon Gauntlet is a tough bunch of easy to medium demons that are all really well-made, skill-oriented demons. There's not a whole lot of memory, but there's a ton of control. Sidestep is an especially unique learning experience. Traction is all about coming in clutch. Mechanical Showdown is a skill-demanding and remarkably consistent adventure. Vibration is a phenomenally synced but slightly bumpy ride. And Hell is a fast-paced, high-anxiety nightmare. It's perfectly normal to sink quite a bit of time into these 5 levels, and it is perhaps the only gauntlet that I would consider basically perfectly organized. This level is very scary to approach. Perhaps the most famous demon ever made, and certainly the demon with the heaviest legacy, 9 Circles is a flashy onslaught of forgiving spaces made hard mostly by their limited visibility. As a whole, this level isn't actually all that hard, and you'd never believe me on that until you tried it yourself. It's actually on par with some medium demons, and I'd consider it the most satisfying entry into hard demons. The reality is that there aren't really very many viable hard demons for beginners, or really at all. They're like the middle child. They don't get any attention, so they often struggle to have their own concrete sense of identity, either as a medium or an insane demon. 9 Circles is one of the few hard demons that are very bold and don't have problematic gameplay. Okay, so just so we're clear, I hate this level. I hate everything about this level. I'm putting it on the list because it's an iconic classic and because beating this basically certifies you to beat any hard demon in the game, but I genuinely believe this is one of the worst experiences that this game has to offer. It doesn't get much worse. Rapid speed changes that leave you struggling for control over your player, this really tight spam wave, and the invisible timing jump that follows immediately after, perhaps the jankiest slope and orb sorcery ever conceived by man. A maze made of slopes that have slightly bigger hitboxes than all of the others and lure you into a false sense of security. Whatever this garbage is. And like 15 whole seconds of beyond stressful flying, topping it off with a 1-block space at the very end. Forsaken Neon is genuinely the farthest from satisfying that I have ever experienced in a GD level. If you want to skip it, I will not blame you. But if you can beat this, then by George, you have the patience for literally any and everything else you will come across. Heinz is notorious for making some of the most enjoyable challenges on the hard to insane demon side. Dance Massacre being one of the less iconic ones, but especially for a 2.0 level, it has a charm to it and a playability that many hard demons lack. Heinz's hard demons often blur the line between hard and insane. Diffuse and Breakthrough are also demons I recommended around this point, but honestly they might be too hard. Despite being called an insane demon, I don't really think this is one. Once you get to the harder end of hard demons, you'll start reaching this little divergence point where players with 144Hz monitors have a significant advantage over players with 60Hz monitors. That is a nod to this thing called refresh rate, which is a self-explanatory name. Psychosis is full of somewhat tight ship parts and has some other funny timings that you have to watch out for. I beat Psychosis on 144Hz, and since my screen refreshes more often, I have a bit more of an advantage controlling my flying. If you do not have that, maybe this will be an insane demon for you. I don't know. Either way, it's really fun, so it's worth your efforts. Even though I had a pretty miserable experience with Windy Landscape, it has this legacy of being way ahead of its time in terms of gameplay, and it's significantly more impressive than most 1.9 levels out there. You may find this really fun and straightforward, or you may find it really obnoxious and cluttered. It really depends on the player. Regardless, it's a great test of skill with timings and mastering unique movements with little room for error. This is what I would consider that threshold that separates demanding but adaptable challenges from levels that are truly difficult. By truly difficult, I mean even the most skilled players in the world would struggle to beat them casually. I've seen technical one-attempt Psychosis before, hardly even trying, but while I'm sure he could one-attempt Windy Landscape, I would consider it normal if he died to some stuff along the way. The further we go, the less possible it becomes to not struggle. Night Terrors is pretty mean. By the time you get to this level, that's really something you should expect from anything you try to go for. It's full of tense cube timings, tight flying sections, clutch mini-wave spaces, and many other things that feel harder than they actually are. That being said, beating this feels awesome. The sequence of movements you have to pull off feels so satisfying to execute flawlessly, and it's such a rewarding experience. Having a 144Hz monitor will really give you an edge on this level, but all of the flying sections are fully possible without it. You'll just have to find some patterns to avoid the control that you would need to straight fly through them. Survivability with 60Hz gets slimmer and slimmer as we progress. There are plenty of worthy insane demons for helping you practice harder gameplay, but I've selected the following 4 not only to balance out your skill set, but to make sure that you can deliver when a lot of skill is demanded of you. We'll call them the 4 Horsemen, except instead of death, war, famine, and pestilence, they are timing, control, endurance, and muscle memory. You can handle them in any order. I asked multiple people to order them from easiest to hardest, and I got, like, every possible combination. So their comparative difficulty is subjective and based on what you're comfortable with. Timing is Acropolis, a legendary demon from 1.9 that is notorious for its extreme focus on timings. This level is absolutely jam-packed with precise cube jumps, tight wave spaces, and other windows of opportunity with very few frames. This isn't a level that you can just feel your way through either. You have to learn each individual timing and execute them consecutively. Control is Ado, another legendary 1.9 demon full of tight corridors that you need excellent control over your movements in order to fit through. You even need good management over your cube movements to get through the memory in the first 40%, and then the real level starts. Thankfully, the neon flashing and little air decoration makes it really easy to see what you need to avoid. Its difficulty comes pretty much solely from obstacle arrangement. Endurance is Lit Fuse, a really memorable mid 2.0 level that many people still consider to be Karma L's magnum opus. It's really long, begins with a really intuitive timing section, has this really long controlled spam part, and is full of frighteningly elongated clutch sections that complement its song flawlessly. The drop at the end is extremely satisfying, especially after the long trek it takes to get there. It's vibrant, explosive, and suspenseful, and it takes an overwhelming amount of nerve control to not crack under pressure. Now, as for muscle memory... Alright, I need to preface this by saying I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I was going to put Supersonic here on the list, but I have some experience with what it feels like to actually play Supersonic, and I can't do that to you guys. I already put you through Forsaken Neon, which is something I poured hours into and gave up on. Supersonic is so irritating that I made an entire renovation of it, redoing the entire Mega Collab by myself, just to fix the obnoxious and inconsistent gameplay. While it's considered overall harder than Supersonic, it should at least feel like more of a consistent and polished experience. In consideration of that, I'm gonna call Sonic Boom the last Horseman, solely because this spot should go to Supersonic in a perfect world, but Supersonic is basically broken, and I can't think of an alternative that I can fully trust, and Sonic Boom was made to feel like how Supersonic should feel, so it should serve as a sort of counterpart. I put this video off for a really long time because I was trying to figure out how to order the extreme demons in this part right here, until I realized that I really have no idea, and there's no set way to go about completing them. Some people go about the list from the bottom to the top, going up by one step each, and some people make massive jumps from like 139 to like the 40s. So it's really all about your skill set, and I think that you can trust yourself enough as a player to be able to decide what's right for you. I've never beaten an extreme before, so I don't really have any recommendations as to what to go for first, but as for a sort of final insane demon to extreme demon, you could go for falling up, but that's really all that I have. I kind of feel like if I can't even record the footage, I probably shouldn't be recommending to you a concrete list of what to go for in what order. So I'm going to kind of put it to an end here at the end of the Insane Demons rather than going forward through the entire thing to the top of the list, because I feel like, one, I would be misleading you, because I don't know what I'm talking about, and two, I feel like it would be a whole lot of work for something that doesn't really have a whole lot of merit behind it. So with that being said, I hope this helped in some way, shape, or form. Thanks to everyone who stuck around and watched this, and especially the people who waited for it for however many months I put it off, because I've had this done for like over a month now, and I just didn't want to do the extremes. So yeah, thanks again, both for watching and for the continued support. I really appreciate it, and have a nice day.